So there's a few things that all of us have heard since we were very young. Always listen to your parents. Don't fight with your brother and sister. And what do you want to be when you grow up? Now, while the first few are pretty simple for us to understand, that last one can be a bit more complicated. Being in grade 12, I know firsthand just how unsure a lot of us can be about our futures. But really, who can blame you? You know, whether it's homework or your part-time job or your extracurricular activities, you rarely have enough time to sit down and think about big issues like this that will impact the rest of your life. And a recent poll from a Toronto high school found that roughly 50% of students knew what they wanted to do after they left high school. Another 25% weren't totally sure, and another 25% hadn't given it a second thought. Now, what's scariest to me about this stat is that roughly half of that group that said that they do know was actually told what they were going to do by a parent or guardian. Now, parents always want the best for us, and I don't want to blame them for that. Obviously, that's a great thing, but they'll often tell you that you need to go to college or university, get your degree, and then magically you'll have interviews lined up for a great career that will provide you with the same quality of life that they had. However, this path is becoming increasingly hard to find, let alone traverse. The job field is becoming increasingly filled with part-time and temporary work, while the field as a whole is actually shrinking each and every day. Now let's also look at university tuition rates, which are actually the highest they've ever been in our country's history, and are roughly 350% higher than when our parents were in school. Right now, the average student finishing an undergraduate program will actually finish with roughly $25,000 in debt. Now, I don't say any of this to scare anyone, but I do want to highlight the main issue here, and that is that this college or university route that we've all heard so much about in our lives actually cannot support the same number of people that it might once have in the past. And that's the main problem I want to focus on today. Now, how do we address this? That's the main problem. If most of us aren't going to find success going directly from school to the workplace, then what are we supposed to do? Well, through the work I've done regarding this issue, I've been able to break down the new emerging career paths into two categories. Those are entrepreneurship and leadership. Now, I'm going to start by tackling entrepreneurship, the one you're probably most familiar with. This just refers to the act of running the day-to-day operations of a business, which on paper sounds quite simple. But in practice, this can easily be one of the most dangerous job fields that you can get into. A great example of one of the earlier entrepreneurs is Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford Motor Company, who was instrumental in the creation of the first automobile that was available for the average person to buy. Now, this revolutionary breakthrough in that field led to one of the biggest economic booms in North American history, and ultimately created thousands of jobs here in Canada and in the United States. Some more modern entrepreneurs that have made similar impacts in our society are Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, Elon Musk, and Steve Jobs. And they will continue to do so in the future. Now, what does this have to do with young people, though? Well, it's quite simple. We need to be more willing to pursue careers as entrepreneurs moving forward. This past summer, I was part of a youth entrepreneurship program called Summer Company, which is a really great opportunity. They provided me with the initial funding, connections in the business world, and personal guidance on how to run my graphic design business. Now, while this was a very fulfilling experience, it was also quite humbling, to say the least. But in what I lacked in the money that I made from that summer, I gained in the personal experience and the opportunity to build important character traits like leadership, organization, and communication. All things that have led to my growth to becoming a self-starter in my life and taking control of my future, something that I recommend everyone here today do in whatever way works for them. Now, the other category I mentioned was leadership, which is also incredibly important, much like entrepreneurship, though this might be less familiar to you by that broader title. So I'll actually break it down into two further categories. Public leadership, which refers to government work and politics, and activism, which has a bit more of a community, organizational, grassroots approach. Some important public leaders and activists of our time include Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr., and Malala Yousafzai, all of whom have sparked massive social and political change in their countries and around the world. With the prevalence of the internet in today's world, it has really opened up a new market for leaders and activists that involves online media. And this has gone on to connect every corner of the world in pursuit of climate justice, gender equity, racial equity, among other things. If you have a unique background in topics like animal rights or human rights or the environment, you already lend yourself a particular credibility in this field. And through more individual research, through involving yourself in causes that matter to you, and meeting with pillars in those communities, you can build a foundational knowledge that can work for a great career further in political and social action. You shouldn't be turned off from pursuing a career as a spark for change in your community, your country, or around the world. So moving forward, I think our generation has to remember that we face incredibly unique issues to those of our parents, as we live in a much more complicated economic time. The world is connected through economic markets all over the place, and this has prompted our country with a laundry list of tough decisions to make. However, at the moment, I think that we're making the wrong ones. Our government continues to invest in dying industries, while young people and entrepreneurs are consistently left out to dry. This clinging to the past of a previous economic order is going to cost our generation our livelihood if it's not stopped and redirected as soon as possible. You shouldn't be quick to hold on to tradition and expect that you're going to find the same quality of life and quality of work that your parents did going directly from school to the workplace, because this is becoming increasingly rare. The people that find the most success are not those that follow the status quo. They're the ones that lead the way for the rest of us. And I think more people in our generation need to be willing to put it all on the table in pursuit of becoming trailblazers. Now, most importantly, I want you to go away with this, and that is that the next time somebody asks you what you want to be when you grow up, you can give them an honest answer, because that question means more now today than ever before. Thank you.